Hello and welcome to a Bookish avec moi, back to the normal schedule, which is in the weekend. Hi, I'm doing fine. How are you? And yeah, let's talk about books. But before that, I just kind of want to comment a little bit on the lighting of this video. I feel that it's much better, and I don't know why. I just sort of did nothing, to be honest, but I think that my background looked better. Like sometimes when I record during the day, my the background would look like really white and glaring, but today it seemed like all of the colors are just so pretty, and I don't really know why that happens. I mean, obviously I still have not mastered the lighting, technicalities of it, but since we have this lighting, now you can see my background a little bit clearer, and you can see my shelves over there. It's supposed to be like a shoe rack, but then I kind of repurposed them into a bookshelf. But obviously it's not all books over there. I have like some packs of noodles over there as well, and you could probably see that there are 3 rolls of cellophane tape. I actually wanted to buy like 1 or even maximum 2 rolls of cellophane tape, and I ordered them online. And while I was ordering, I was just kind of thinking to myself, what if I ordered only 1, and then the vendor will be like so annoyed, like, why only 1 or why only 2? And so I thought, okay, I just add 1 more into my order, and I realized that when I received the cellophane tapes, 3 it's a little bit too much for me. I don't need up until 3 cellophane tapes. So yeah, that's kind of the story of my cellophane tapes. So yeah, let's move on to the books. I'm not going to talk about books that I finished reading, because I actually did a diet version, or so-called diet version, of Bookish avec moi last Wednesday, where I talked about books that I have already finished for the last 2 weeks, which were 13 Months of Sunrise by Rania Mamoun, translated by Elisabeth Jaquette from Arabic to English, and also another book by Muriel Spark. What was it called again? The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about books that I'm currently reading right now, and yeah, just that. I wonder if this is going to be the diet version, because that video that I called the diet version was actually 20 plus minutes. So let's see how this is going to be like. I'm gonna start with the book that I'm currently reading, very near to the end now. This is Birdsong, a novel of love and war. This is by Sebastian Faulks. I am buddy reading this with Kim of Middle of the Book March. So this book takes place in World War I, and it's taking place mostly in France, where the war is taking place. Just one of the places where the war is taking place. And we have our protagonist, Stephen Raisford, who is involved in the fighting in the war. He's like one of the higher ranking officer in the troops. And while he is in France, actually before the war started, while he's in France, he actually falls in love with one married woman, and they kind of have this relationship together, and things sort of didn't work out midway before the war, and the woman Isabel just leaves. And we kind of see what are the things happen when Stephen is involved in the war, when he becomes a soldier, and what happens later after that, how he is psychologically affected by the war. And we also see the aftermath of his kind of tryst with Isabel. So this is kind of interesting in a way, but I'm not gonna talk more about this book. Maybe I'll talk about it next week if we have a Bookish avec moi next week. So the next book that I am currently reading, and I would say this week I've been, even though I'm reading multiple books, but mainly two books are occupying my reading schedule. Maybe about 50% of Birdsong, and also I would say 40% of this book. This is by Kurniawan. This is Beauty is a Wound, translated from Indonesian into English by Annie Tucker. So this is kind of like a historical fiction with plenty of magical realism injected into it. This book is kind of interesting. The main character is a prostitute named Dewi Ayu. And in the beginning of this book, we see Dewi Ayu literally rises from the grave, which is awesome. And it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of absurd and surreal quality to it. And if there's one way where you could kind of seduce me, I mean, if the book wants to seduce me, they can always do it with a little bit of surrealism and absurdism. You know, those two things, lovely combo, makes my knees go weak. So this book actually is about Dewi Ayu and also her 4 daughters. So far, all the way up till I read it, I've only gotten to know the main character, Dewi Ayu. And this story takes place in the history of Indonesia, and it also kind of explores a series of colonization by foreign powers that happens in Indonesia at the time. So there is plenty of war and violence in here, but aside from that, this book is also quite graphic when it comes to sexual violence as well. And a lot of reviews actually say that this book is it is filled with rape scenes and sexual scenes. So I think I'm gonna expect that in this book. But so far, there are indeed quite a lot of rape scenes as well, you know, sexual scenes, and they all have been kind of graphic. Even the violent scenes are kind of graphic. So. But I really like the writing. There is some sort of nonchalance to it, which I think is kind of interesting, the way that the narrator approaches the story. But at the same time, there is also a bit of a comical element. So far, I'm liking this one. I am maybe about a quarter into this book, and I hope that it's not going to disappoint me later. Now moving on to other books I'm currently reading, but not as much as the first 2 books. I'm also reading this one, Kamila Shamsie's Home Fire, which is kind of like a modern retelling of Antigone. And I've not gotten far into this book. This book involves characters from a Muslim family living in the UK. And I actually, you know, the one thing I kind of want to share, I actually read this book up until page 18 one night, and then after that I fell asleep. And so I actually dreamt that I was watching a live action adaptation of this book, and for some reason I kind of knew that it was a TV adaptation of Home Fire, even though I don't know what's gonna happen in this book anyway. And for some reason, that TV adaptation suddenly turns into a kids' educational video about Southeast Asian geography, and suddenly I see stuff like Indonesia and Brunei popping up. So it's really weird. Yeah, just a little bit something that I want to share about this. Next one is Bel Canto by Patchett. Still reading this one, and something I kind of realized about this book is that okay, first of all, this book is about a hostage situation in an unnamed South American country, and you would expect that a story like that would be very suspenseful and thrilling and maybe even fast-paced. But this book is very, very slow-paced. It is slow paced in ways that you would say that it's probably the style that the author is going for in this book, not because the author does not know how to do pacing. You know, it really looks like it's deliberately slow paced, And the way that it is slow paced is that it's as if the narrator is telling me that, okay, we know that there are kidnappings going on, we know that there are terrorists taking people hostage, we know that there are people getting shot, we know that there are people getting injured, people getting killed, but you know what, this is my story and I'm gonna tell it the way I want it, the way I want to tell it. I'm gonna tell it slowly, very slowly. And I guess this is kind of like how I end up reading this book, very slowly as well. So I think at the end of this novel, I think the conclusion is probably not going to be like a traditional like yay, everyone is safe kind of a conclusion. Maybe there is something different at the end. I don't know, but yeah, as far as the pacing goes, it is very slow. It's really, really slow. I am kind of reading this book right now. This is A Single Man by Vintage Isherwood. Christopher Isherwood. Okay, this book is a small book, and I think I've mentioned this book even 2 weeks ago, and I told you that I would probably finish this in a week or two, but obviously I have not finished this. In fact, right now I am kind of considering whether I want to finish this book or not, because this book has a character that is very sad. Basically, the main character is an English professor who has lost his boyfriend. And the story takes place sometime in the 80s, I think? Probably? I can't remember. Or 70s, 60s, which decade it was. Oh my god. So, but basically, the character of this book, George, he is really sad and he is really cynical. Like, he is just so cynical and sad and empty in this book. And I'm not sure if a book with a very cynical character is something that I really want to read right now, because I am also in a cynical mood right now, and I don't really want to overload myself with cynicism. I probably want something that's a little bit more out of this world, a little bit more fantastical, maybe a little bit more happy. So yeah, I'm still considering whether I want to keep reading this book. When I look at it, it's a really small book, and I would tell myself, well, it's small, so maybe I could just, I don't know, sit down and finish it. But I don't really want to end up disliking this book simply because I don't really feel like I'm in the mood for it right now. Because I know for sure that the writing is quite good. It's just that the mood of the book is not really working well with me right now. So yeah, I might drop it for a while, maybe. I am also currently reading this book by Tash. This is The Harmony Silk Factory, which is about the kind of like a coming of age of sorts, kind of story about a man, a practically nobody who lives in early 20th century Malaya. And he actually comes from a really unremarkable background, and how he sort of built himself from the ground up and end up becoming someone who owns a textile factory, how he becomes a textile merchant. So it's kind of interesting to see how it's going to be like. Also part of my personal Read Malaysian project that I would like to do these 2 months, but obviously August is going to end and I still have not finished one book. Well, talking about reading events, stuff like readathons, I am so horrible with readathons. So first of all, one of the readathons that I really wanted to kind of participate in would that would be Women in Translation. I had a few books already lined up, but then again, like last year, I knew that I won't be able to finish all of those books. So I kind of had this expectation that I would finish those books in 5 months. So I'm not going to finish those books in August. That doesn't work. But I am reading this one right now. This is Duong Tu Huong's novel without a name, originally written in Vietnamese, and this one was translated by Nina McPherson and Phan Duong. And this is a war novel. It's about this soldier who was involved in the war, but then he receives instruction to go back to his village to attend to some matters, and it is going to be some sort of a story about the soldier's reflection on how war has affected their society, and also further demonstration on how crappily I do readathons. I am also reading a book for Book Buffet 2021, and I am reading The Restaurant of Love Regained by Ito Ogawa, translated into English from Japanese by David Karashima. And to even further show that, how badly I am doing with the readathon, I think I kind of lost that book. I couldn't find that book for this video, so I'm not holding anything right now. So I'm just gonna have the photo over here of that book. And yeah, I'm not even halfway into that book, so I am also planning to read another book for Book Buffet, but it's already like what, 29th of August right now, and that is Chocolat by Joanne Harris, which is about the arrival of some woman into a French village, and she makes chocolate, and she opens a chocolate shop, and it somehow kind of creates this sort of a conflict with the church people, because the church thinks that chocolate is sinful. I think that's probably what this book is about. I'm not sure if I've summarized the synopsis very well, but I'm kind of interested in reading this one as well, and I kind of think that this book would probably make me feel some sort of craving towards chocolate. It has been a while since I last had some chocolate bars. In fact, holding this book right now kind of makes me feel like wanting to have some chocolate. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess that's it for this Bookish avec moi. Just a short update on what I am currently reading. And it seems like this is probably the diet version instead of the one on Wednesday. But anyway, this is the one in the regular schedule. So it is supposed to be like the prime version, but anyway, regardless, what happens this week? Some of the things are non-bookish. I think I discovered how to prepare chicken nuggets with microwaves. Usually I just fry them, and then this week, because I kind of ran out of gas and I haven't replaced my gas cylinder, and so I couldn't really do anything that involves cooking with fire, and so I microwaved my chicken nuggets, and they turned out pretty well. They're pretty soft and a little bit soggy, but at least I'm not using oil, which is, I think, is better. And also, preparing them with oil means that I have to use a larger amount of oil to fry them, and I always feel that frying those stuff like chicken nuggets kind of waste my oil, even though I do like some fried foods from time to time. But yeah, I think using the microwaves has been pretty good so far, and I've been enjoying those chicken nuggets. What else is going on? Well, nothing else is going on, I guess. So yeah, that's it for this Bookish avec moi, and I'll see you again in a different video. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this very lovely lighting, which I don't really know how it came to be, but yeah. So I'll see you again. Take care. Bye bye. Found it.